Alrighty, good evening, everyone. Welcome to October 16th. This is Aligning with Success. I'm your host, co-host, Mike DiMuccio. But then again, most of you who are listening to this online already know that. I wanted to sort of thread the needle and see what's been happening on your end with respect to some of the innovations, some of the new ideas that have been passed around. Some of the ideas that I might not even be aware of through your other avenues of collaboration with other consultants as to what's actually happening, what's in your business, what's working. We're mid-October. We're in the last quarter of 2017. This is where momentum should be really starting to pick up. It's the October, November months that we anticipate as the big before people start to settle into Christmas time. So want to see how you're finding the process that we have been through since we started this year. It's been an ongoing and developing process of becoming aware of certain things, orienting our business a certain way, approaching it in a particular way. And so I'm going to mute you there, Elaine, in case you want to come back on. We can unmute you. If you got any background noise, or if you're not unmuted, or if you're not muted, please go ahead and do that. Unmute yourself if you want to jump in. So, or I can unmute you. Just give me a clue. We've had an interesting year. So the year started off with the launch of the Active Wellness Tour. That was a way to brand the new NICAN. The new NICAN being really well represented by a new compensation plan, mainly represented by a new compensation plan, because the comp plan tells us what it is that we need to do in order to grow a successful business and to be compensated. So the fact that it had changed so dramatically, that was a significant thing, in my opinion. Structurally, it was a change to the vehicle, and so it's like you're driving a new car. We've learned only lately how unique the compensation plan is in terms of how we approach it. We're going to have some lesson on that by Luis Kasuga in San Antonio, for those of you who are going to be there. He's going to be speaking on that, the idea that the new compensation plan allows us to be more diligent about sponsoring directly underneath people, directly and driving that line straight down, because it's no longer about being in a very close-knit relationship with the people you personally enroll, which is what was required of the former compensation plan when you were developing frontline silvers, golds, platinums, diamonds. So that is a huge change. And with that should come accelerated growth if you're following that new methodology, because essentially you're instructing the person you've just enrolled to do what they need to do, and you take the position that they are a business owner sooner, that you want to inform them that you're working with them, you're in partnership, but they are their own boss. And so when you give them instruction like make a list, you're not a taskmaster. You're not sitting there trying to hatch an egg. If they don't have the gumption and initiative to follow the instructions, then that's going to be the case for them going forward in the business, and you don't want to be sitting there waiting for something to happen where they're concerned. You need to be moving on. But moving on could be one name. Show me who we should be speaking to next. Give me the name of one person, and then you drill down. And then from that, you can continue, because it's no longer about waiting for them to compile their 100 names list. It's about identifying a name and then moving on, identifying a name and moving on. So that should create an acceleration in terms of how you can be an A going quickly through and creating vested interest by going straight down rather than just horizontally across. So that's a huge innovation. And I'm not sure if any of you have some experience with that, but please bring that up if you do, something that you've discovered recently. But anyway, so the whole thrust of this year has been to create momentum around the new NICAN, which centers around the business, the idea that we have a business offering. That required us to re-examine how we language our proposition, and to become very alert or very aware In fact, it's so amazing. I was on an ABC call tonight, and right after I basically went over the whole thing, and right after, and it was verified that they had been shown the McDonald's model. This person said, "Well, here's what I loaned some products to some people, and I told them to use it for a week and see what they think. You think that's a good way to build a business?" And I'm like, "Okay, time out. Which part of this didn't you understand? When you say build a business, what business are you building by doing that? And when did you hear me in my explanation of how to build a business to do that?" Right, you didn't. So it's just amazing how we so gravitate to the products, and everybody so gravitates to the products. And I think it's both it's our curse and our blessing. And I don't think Nikken would be the company that it is today, or be even in business today, if it wasn't for the products being what they are. But imagine the company it would be today, and what our market penetration would be, if we didn't lose sight of the business and present that side of it first and foremost, and maintain that position. The product will speak for themselves. It'll take care of itself. So that's been the emphasis in this last quarter, is to really comprehend where our idea of building the business had gone off the rails. It becomes so product centric that even though we thought we were building the business, we were still only building a component of the business, which was the retail component. So partnering, finding partners, people to share in a vision, people to share in an ideology, brought us back around to the vision. The idea that what drives behavior, what drives our business, what drives our motivation, our reason to be, is the cause. And programs or videos like the one that we were shared last week was Prosperity. There's a movie that clearly indicates that the businesses of our time, the businesses of the future, are the companies that are for benefit, not merely for profit. And so Nikken squarely, and I say Nikken, when I say Nikken, I say we are Nikken, right? We, as the CEOs of our own businesses, are already predispositioned that way. We are already focused on our mission statement is humans being more, to bring balance into people's lives through those 5 pillars. So we're so perfectly squarely aligned with this future that it should be something that makes our job a lot easier, conveying to people why this is an important venture, and less MLM-y, if you will, less the flavor of MLM, because MLM, that is simply one part of our business model. It's not even the whole business model. It's just an aspect of our business model, which allows us to do a very important thing: leverage time and compound our time. So it makes it possible for anybody to get involved. So the mechanism is a beautiful mechanism. But I can understand then why so many people in high positions or positions of influence and previous successes would be resistant to getting involved, because if they see us coming as MLMers and they hear us sell, because that's what we talk about when we talk about Nikken, the products, its perception is they're perceiving us as selling, then you can see why they've been resistant. And so I think we've turned a big corner in the last few months, especially in terms of an alignment to success, a new wave of success, where we are clearly in alignment with the ideology, the purpose, the mission to make a difference, to present that as front and center why we do what we do, and then to demonstrate the mechanism and all its parts, which includes the products, but not until it's properly contextualized. So having done all that, discussed all that, at this point, I'm curious, for those of you who've been part of this whole experience, this whole process, where are you at? How is this showing up now in your results? How is this showing up in your behavior? How many of you have gone now to the next level and saying, how do I expand my contact base, my influence? How do I get a higher flow of traffic? That's a piece of the puzzle that I'm about to fill in. I'm doing a bit of research on right now. So having said all that, sort of laid the foundation in the background for anybody who just jumped into the Aligning with Success call in the last week or so, to those of you who've been on it from the beginning, where are you at? How has all this now, how is it now being demonstrated in your business? Anyone? Go ahead, Barbara.
Hi. So I just really love it because it brings me back to the foundation of who I am when I evolved spiritually in my polarity therapy training and practice. And when I first joined MeCan 12 years ago, that was the premise. And then, of course, it went through all those highways and byways. So I feel really empowered. I feel like I'm having way more fun than I've had in a really long time. I never really quite know what I'm going to say to people. It's like the artist with a palette, a canvas that's blank, and start talking and conversing. Yet, instead of it being about a wellness solution, it's about the bigger vision of making a difference in the world. And somewhere in there, people always want to know about what solution would work for them. But it's also that they're invited into something bigger. And I meet people in very organic ways, vendoring at fairs, but also in parking lots and health food stores. And they're people I don't know, but for some reason, if I notice something about them, I begin that conversation. Some of them are young women married with children, and a couple of them are like, they need a couple more weeks tying things up. So they're in the process with me. They might have done a PowerPoint or an ABC, yet they're not ready to take that next step yet. But I really like who they are and that they're getting that bigger picture, not just, oh, look how this could help you with an injury or more energy. So I'm having a great time.
And you know what? Listening to you, it's just flowing off your tongue. It's so effortless for you to discuss this. It's like, this is who I am. This is what, it's just, it seemed, I tell you, that's energy, right? That's aligning with success. When you're in the flow, it's effortless. It just rolls off your tongue.
Yeah.
And that's what we talked about. We talked about once you get into that alignment, then the words will come out of you. Mm-hmm. That whole new way of thinking and communicating will just be expressed. Someone else? Thank you for that.
Okay.
I've been meeting with different people, and they are business people that I feel that I would like to be in business with. And when I start talking to them about our products or how this helps your body, etc., they seem to be less interested because the MLM situation comes out a lot more. And they finally ask that type of a question. But now when we're talking about the bigger vision and what we're doing, etc., it makes more sense to them to look at it and to see if it's a fit for them. Before, I couldn't even get them to look at it to see if it was a fit for them, and now they will. So I find that it's a lot different for me when I'm talking to business people who I feel would be an asset to me in my business.
Wow, that's huge. Wow. I mean, if you can't even get them to look, then where's that going to lead, right? So if you've gotten past that, that's huge. That's fantastic. Thank you. Go ahead, Maggie.
Yeah, I'm finding similar things. The tools that you developed, Michael, that we were able to access in Orlando are priceless. They keep me on track. It starts with the conversation, which I just met with a gal today from Germany, and she's, we just had this very flowing conversation about what's important to you. What would, if you had a magic wand, what would you create in terms of for your life? So I found out so much about her in that questioning. So I had the little card, the 5 pillars card, and then she, she's a very systematic person. She's a project manager. I said, one of the things that you will love about this is that we are systemized. We have a a system that works. I turned the card over. I said, this is what we're doing right now. We're starting from, you didn't know anything about Niken until we met today. And we're having this conversation about why would this even be of interest to you? What are your bigger goals? What's your vision? What's your desire? And so I said, what I would really encourage you to do is to look at the rest of this process and just commit to that. So I said to asked her point blank, I said, would you be willing to commit to getting the rest of the information so you can make a decision that resonates with you? She said, absolutely. So right then we set an appointment for tomorrow. She's coming to see the products and talk about the business. So
Fantastic.
It just seems to be really natural, and it takes away that, like you say, that MLM-iness about it.
Well, if you're establishing a very compelling motive for why the information is relevant, and then they'll take the time to get the information. And that motive is twofold. You're establishing the big picture, as Charles was just talking about, the idea that there's something big at stake. There's relevance and importance there for somebody who's looking to be a stakeholder in a major movement or an influence of some way to something important, number one. And number two, what's in it for them? The most important motivator, and that is to understand that there's a benefit here. This is before you actually present Niken, before you're actually showing them the solution, the moving parts. You're establishing the motive, which is the impetus for why they would even want the information. And most, and I mean most, MLM people don't do that. They go straight into presentation mode. Amateurs go straight into product. And so you understand that there's a hell of a lot more amateurs in network marketing than there are pros. And so the masses are exposed to the amateurs, and that's why the reputation. It's not that there's something wrong with the business or the business model. It's just that they're not given the proper education before they go out there and start creating a lot of noise through their excitement. There used to be a saying in a company that I followed where they would say, ignorance on fire is better than knowledge on ice. Well, that may be true for the individual, certainly not true for the industry. Can you imagine, Stan, you're a doctor, can you imagine all the doctors running out of medical school so excited they can't wait to start operating on people? And it's like, well, time out. You got to get to know what's going on first before you. So that's just the nature of our business, because anyone can come in for such a low, what's the word, barrier, right? So we're doing our part to, I think, improve the situation and create a culture where they're going to experience a level of professionalism. By the way, just an FYI, the tools guys, Life and Balance Tools, they're developing some for your tables, to decorate your tables with, what do you call those, tarps, or it says Niken on it. So anyway,
Tablecloth.
The tablecloth that's branded. So that'll be available to see at the San Antonio event.
Mike, I'd like to pick up on what you were just talking about. To become a professional, to get from novice to expert, you do have to learn the terminology, and you have to practice doing it. And for me, being an active member here, it has been this forum to be able to do that. For example, tonight we've been turned Stan's old mentoring half an hour into practicing that business preview. So we've had one person doing it, and then now sharing the slides and so forth, and with dialogue. So we're not taping them off. If we have a guest on, then we do it a little bit more professionally and clip through it. But for the most part, there's a core group that are having an opportunity to practice it. And we talked about that tonight, because these are people that are interested in becoming that professional. And it is using the different terminology. And we just had that conversation, ending that and coming on to here. So what I find is that I'm asking different questions. And today there was a 36-year-old furnace person that came in, and So just carrying on the conversation, what he did before. His wife owns a beauty salon. He left another job when he hit top of scale, got trained into another. So, well, where do you want to be 25 years from now, 5 years from now, if you keep doing this? What's something he's been thinking about? He has one son that's 10 years old. And so it just led into the conversation in that period of time that he went out the door with information. And I was hoping that he would come on tonight. He had the links and a willingness to then meet with his wife and son, because he's interested in he was busy tonight with sports or whatever he was doing with him, football, helping out there. But just that whole way of speaking differently. I was invited at the last minute to go into Cleveland into women's health, to help out with a booth this weekend. And the entire approach, and it's a former silver who fell off. They wanted to see what was going on. And her feedback to me was, maybe I might want to look at this again. And, Madeline, there's a difference in how you're approaching people. And she's already texted that there are some people that are interested. So she's retoying with the thought of maybe restarting again. If not, I said, Paulette, we'll come up with some kind of a referral. We're not going there. You have to be engaged and you have to do the work. And if you're not ready to do it now, that's okay. I'll take referrals and I'll do something with you as a referral bonus or whatever. So that's very different in me, in that change in my being and becoming than of empowering more rather than enabling.
Thank you, Madeline. I want to stay on the concept of results too. So I want to see where this is showing up in terms of results in the business, because like I said, we're tracking right now to momentum. Right. So we should be moving into a higher sponsoring rate, much higher sponsoring rate. Yes. So let me just recap something I said on a former call, where there's really 3 stories to tell. That's the McDonald's metaphor. There's the product story, there's the business opportunity story, and there's the vision story. If you're a good storyteller about the products, you'll earn a good income. Yeah. If you're a good storyteller about the business opportunity, you'll earn a better income. But if you're a great visionary story, you'll earn the millions. That's what that story's worth. And again, if you draw parallels in the world of business, you'll find that the people who make the big bucks are the ones who sell the big picture, the big ticket, the big vision. So those are the ones that the investors want to invest in. You look at a CEO, for instance, in a Steve Jobs, when he was the one at the front of the room talking big vision. Right now it's Elon Musk. Here's a guy who's, our modern day Tony Stark. This guy's got such an incredible vision. People are throwing money at him left, right, and center. And so is he delivering on products? Yeah, but he's got a whole, chain of people involved in the development and delivery of products. He's not sitting there on the product line, developing the products. So it's the big story that'll sell all the other pieces of this. They wouldn't have products to sell if he didn't have a big vision to sell. So that's what we want to be comfortable at. And we want to make a clear distinction that the big money is in the big vision. The story of the vision. The moderate income is in the business story, and the wage, trading time for money, is in the product story, essentially. So keep that in mind. Okay, so anyone else with some impactful results, things that are happening that you're discovering new as a result of this new frame that we're operating our Niken businesses around? Anyone else?
Just to add, Mike, the new frame is more clear in the last 2 months leading up to that in the cultural change. It is more clear. And this kind of clarification when any one of us speaks up is very helpful. It's very helpful to have that kind of feedback.
And here's where you can help me, by the way. Most of the stuff that's been happening here behind the scenes is not known to corporate. So when you have a chance, if you do this week coming up, to meet with Kurt, even just to brush up, think about what you might want to say to him that would be impactful for him to appreciate where you have come, where we have come, where we are at, because he only sees the math. He only sees the bottom line, the numbers. He doesn't see the triple bottom line. He doesn't know about the triple bottom line. We do. And so there's a gap in time between what we have to offer and share and what he perceives as a difference. And even still, he's not involved in this conversation, so he may not know where it's coming from. He just looks at the numbers and he may misinterpret the information. So that's where you could help me, is help him understand the mechanisms of the three visions, those three stories.
Mike, I believe none of us are happy. I know you're not, and Ben isn't, nobody is, and he isn't either with those results, the measurable results yet. But I believe this core group is going to have greater measurable results in 2018 because of being able to attract and start those business people. And it's happening. We're saying that have people in the pipeline and we're doing it differently. So I think that changed. That's there have been so many things that have really moved me along this, but relating that movie, those components, to really being focused on not losing that drive and believing in it so much that it is going to happen. So I do believe that what's happening now in the fall in this last quarter, you're going to be seeing in 2018.
Okay. Well, that's what he needs to hear. He needs to know that there is something different happening, and that there is a tangible activity happening that will soon show up on the scoreboard where he keeps scoring. Barbara, I see you've unmuted. Are you?
It's really an aside, but when you said triple bottom line, I was talking with my son and I was sharing some of the different changes that were going on, and I couldn't remember the name, that actual phrase, and I started describing it, and he went, "Oh, triple bottom line." And I said, "Oh, you know about that?" And he said, "Yeah, for like about 8 years."
Wow.
I said, "I'm catching up, and I learned this one without you telling me it."
Fantastic. Well, you see, that's just it. If we're going to appeal to that generation, we got to get an understanding of what it is that they are looking for, and they have been, cultured in. And if they're looking for opportunities that they can be part of a triple bottom line, and we're not using that language, they may never know that that's what we represent. Yeah. So it's by the way, being a leader in marketing means you're forever more in research. You're constantly researching the marketplace because it's in transition. It's constantly moving around. They just announced here in Canada the shutdown of Sears. Sears is one of the biggest retail chains in the history of our country, and it's going away. So you can see the changes are happening on monumental levels in the way our business models are having to move and adapt. So good stuff, and for some people who are on the wrong end of that, not so good.
I find it fascinating, Mike, and just a quick aside again, but my background was really a lot of the back to the land, so I didn't pay attention to business. And it's really fascinating, and it's really important to pay attention to these trends. And from that prosperity movie, I've actually been watching some other clips, and they're phenomenal, the information that they're fueling. So I encourage other people to follow that line. If they just Google it, they can pick up other clips that are going on.
I do have one question for y'all. We haven't heard from everybody, and if you do have something to add to what's working for you in this new vein of thinking and expressing, what tool is missing? Is there a tool that's missing? and if so, what do you feel is a critical component to? I've got a few hands up, so Lori, go ahead.
I think one of the tools that we might need is, and I know that Rick's going to address this in some fashion in San Antonio, but the absence of products for giving out to other people, samples. And I know that that's going to be at the end of the line rather than right at the beginning of your conversation. But when someone wants to try something, we just don't have it, the certain things that would be helpful.
Well, that applies to maybe just some of the products. Like,
right.
I, for one, would be really happy if we had a shake pack
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, not just you're not going to hand them a tub, and you're certainly not going to scoop it in a plastic bag and say, here, take this home and try that. So, yeah, I represent a multinational, multi-billion-dollar company. Here, take this home.
In a Ziploc bag. Right, exactly.
So,
but that would be really helpful. I just think the new tools are really good, though. I mean, they really, they're vibrant. They're just, it's really, really helpful.
If you feel there are things that are absent where Nikan product line is concerned, like product samples, things like that, that's the kind of feedback that you need to take to Nikan. And the vehicle, the conduit is Jeff. Or I'm not sure if they have a new product development person, but definitely Jeff is your contact point to just say, hey, Jeff, you know, here's something to put into the next conversation. You guys, executive conversation. Here's what we're in need of. This is what I'm finding I need. And so if there's enough people doing that, and they see some consistency, the thing with Nikan is they respond to consistency. The thing that we lack is consistency. So get your message together and agree on it, and then get a good consistency in terms of. I'd like to see more jewelry, for instance. I'd like to see some more low-hanging fruit,
nice
things,
yes.
things that people consume with regularity because they want to give a gift, and this is a great gift to offer people. Especially, by the way, if you haven't watched the bioenergetics video with Julie Tara being interviewed by Dave Johnson, I've been telling my family. I've posted this repeatedly. Just watch the first 17 minutes. After that, you can do what you want. Because in those first 17 minutes, she brings to the foreground some research that was done by UCLA that is monumental. And this was something I was aware of when I first joined Nikan. That's how old this research is. And she's sort of brought it back to the foreground and says, hey, did you know that they've done studies on the effects of the body with or without magnetic influence, and to the degree that we are impacted, our emotions, our psychology, our cognitive functions, our physical ability, our heart, everything is just in step with this. So to have products, necklaces, things like that is pretty critical, I think, in lieu of that.
Mike, the old Nikan at a glance, I have some pictures out of some of those that I have in 3-ring notebooks. The little trifold, a simpler, like Nikan at a glance product business, the business opportunity. I still think it's nice to have. I know everybody likes to look at
I got to tell you, though, some of these tools in Latin America, especially the business tools, are actually being put together by the Royal Diamonds. Like I said, I was so impressed by the level of commitment of Royal Diamonds to the extent that they are running a business, and they're not waiting for any other Royal Diamond to do it. So I've seen some pretty amazing tools. I said, where did this come from? And it was actually developed by one of the Royal Diamonds. Of course, they bring professional help. They'll get a graphics person or whatever to put something together. But so if you see the need, certainly bring it to the attention of who you think can help get it done. We do now have a tool supplier who can get it out there. And unfortunately, I find myself competing with my upline on what he thinks is the right way to go with tools. He thinks low quality, inexpensive is better than high quality, professionally put together. So we're at odds on that, but what it is, it is. So if you find that there is, is there any other tool out there, by the way, that you think would be, Maggie, an enhancement to our business?
Yeah, I wish I had the 3 models with the McDonald's framework of that. I've seen we've had the retail franchise and networking model. But to have that in the context of McDonald's, because helping people understand what we do from what they already know would be really helpful.
So maybe in a little card format like the other stuff is.
Yeah,
on one side do the 3 model. Yeah. Maybe on the flip side do what's unique about the Nikan business model, something of that sort. So
the 4 business quadrants. The old Creating Balance had that. The 4 business quadrants.
Right. The Kiyosaki one.
The Kiyosaki model.
Cash flow. You're talking about cash flow quadrants.
Yeah, cash flow quadrants.
Yeah, I love that one.
That would be helpful, because I still have that around and show it.
Yeah, look at your old Creating Balance. I think just like you brought out the other old stuff.
Yeah, well, the cash flow quadrants, I actually had a mind to do that one specifically on the as a one card business presentation, sort of on one side, what Veronica does. Veronica, she has the 5x4. So I really like the simplicity of that. And then on the flip side, you would expand the idea of the business, which could be these concepts here, the cash flow quadrants, the 3 business models. So I'll certainly work on something like that because I like that idea. I think it's a great tool. Anything else?
I like that 5x4 one. And Suzanne and I have been tweaking the Tune In Tuesday PowerPoint. We changed it to First Look, and we took that business model that Dennis Williams had and changed the words, and then we did a business model for NECAN and changed the words. So there might be something that you like in that. And
sure, please send it to me. How many of you guys are using that trajectory curve that I added? Okay. Because that to me is the big why. It's the identification. Everybody can identify with that. Like right now, I'm pretty much saying, well, let's see, the 50% chance you're going to die of heart disease, 50% chance you're going to die of cancer. That's a statistical fact.
Yeah,
and
that's
that
another
is,
one I'd like to see, Michael. I'd like to see a card with that on because it's just so powerful.
Okay, I like that too, the trajectory card.
And that trajectory card can be shown to Mr. Foley because those little habits every day are going to take off. That's the prediction.
And my piece about what's missing, and I might be going way off the deep end here, but when you were bringing up about the upline and the 2 kinds of cards and all that cupola, and it's like, that ripples down and not everybody's aware of it, but some people are. And I think that without leadership and vision from corporate, to then bring people into line when certain things are going out of line, that it's divided we fall and united we're going to stand. And yes, we're united, but there's a whole lot of other stuff going out there. And I think that we need to come up and collaborate and be the transcendental company that we are. And I don't think we can do it.
I think this is where, but see, again, this is where you guys have a voice. It's like a democracy. So if you feel that there are things that need to improve where that's concerned, get to the source, go straight to the source and say, look, you may not be aware of this, but this is how this is being perceived, or this is the impact this is having on my business. So just do that.
And say, I've already done that.
Okay, good. That's good. And that's the best thing you can do, because at the end of the day, we're all independent business owners. And so we have a right to do what we feel is best for our company and our business. And that represents our individual companies. So, but if you feel that somehow something is a distraction or taking away, then go to the source and just let them know that that's how it's affecting you. And then it's still up to them to decide on that. Okay, well, maybe we got 2 more minutes here and then we'll wrap it up. So we're discussing, oh, by the way, is there any other tool that you feel? So right now it looks like the tools that you guys are referring to are tools that help you present the business case, a strong business case. Because right now that's what I'm really seeing is the 3 business models, cash flow quadrants, 5x4, the trajectory card. That's really the business presentation.
With putting those words in, the cause and the need and what we've been talking about, that bigger picture of changing the vision of changing the world.
Well, the cash flow quadrants presentation I have and have used extensively because I feel that it addresses the core issue as to why people are financially illiterate. Why are we destined to be financially in this situation? Like we're conditioned to be sick, we're conditioned to lack money. That's just simply a product of the conditioning of our education. People are educated to go to school, to get a job. What is the job? Trading time for money. So at the end of the day, that's the trajectory they're on financially. So to show the cash flow quadrants and then say, well, where do you want to be? Well, then what we need is a bridge. We need a bridge to get from here to there. And that's where the solution comes back in. That's the NECAN solution. It creates a bridge. So that is, again, a business presentation, but it leverages some common knowledge and some credible sources. You know, you can quote Robert Kiyosaki, which if I was going to use a cash flow quadrant image, I would be quoting Robert Kiyosaki for sure. Anyways, I want you to, yeah.
I think it was last week, but you were talking about in Mexico, how they're gathering. I don't know how this fits into a tool. I'm just going to say that how they gather for different reasons. You know, not about the business.
These are events. So what they're doing is they're doing events. And for instance, I'll give you an example. Let me just give you a straight out example. If you do a search on Facebook, you just went on Facebook and you did a search for some group, single moms. Believe it or not, you probably got a dozen just in your local area of groups that are already congregating on Facebook under the idea of being a single mom, single parent. So how would you talk to them? Let's say I've identified a group and they're posting under this, somebody's running that group, somebody decided to start that group, and now they have 14,000 followers who are single moms, and you see you say, okay, I'm going to follow this group, and now you start to see their feed. Every now and then you'll see a message come from the single moms Facebook page. So now you now have access to a group that's very qualified. How would you talk to that group? How would you gain access and trust to that group? What would you do to contribute to that group so that they start to see value in your contribution that could then be directed towards something that that provides a solution directly? You know, something that you would post that they would say, that sounds interesting, and then you'll start to get some comments. Anybody who comments on a post that you added is somebody who's indicating an interest. So think about the different categories of people out there that would gather for different reasons. Sports, how about tennis, how about whatever. And you'll see that Facebook is a great resource for finding those groups that are already happening. And then it's just a question of, how do I dialogue without spamming them? That's the caution. How do you get into the conversation without appearing to be somebody who's spamming them? So you would be starting to think about value add. So pay attention to what is being said and who's getting clicks, who's getting comments, because then you'll get an understanding of what people like. I'll give you an example of this. Whenever I post political commentary on my Facebook page, it flatlines. Nobody engages, or very, very few people. It's such a volatile thing. If I post anything about my kids, boom, the engagement goes way through the roof. So you learn as you go. And so there's some ways that you can create or identify with groups out there locally. One of the things that I'm going to be talking about soon, once I'm done my research, is fan pages. Creating a fan page that is an event-based fan page. So you're going to start selling out or promoting an event, a specific event in your area, and you're going to use Facebook as a means to promote and advertise to a particular demographic that you get to choose. So I would research fan pages on Facebook. It's really a simple process, but I would do my homework. Go to Google, type Facebook fan page, and learn about it, because you're going to be educated about it soon enough, and it will be a way for you to start creating traffic to yourself on an event. So let's say you're going to host an active wellness tour event, and you want to get people that are not on your contact list to come. Then you could do a Facebook promotion that drives the traffic to your fan page, where they can click to register for your event. It could be an online event. Doesn't matter what it is. As long as whatever it is they're seeing on your Facebook post is something that attracts them, you give them a mechanism that they can reply, like click here to get more information, click here for a free download. This is all possible, by the way, through this Facebook fan page concept. So there's a way for you to use Facebook to target an audience locally. You can even set the parameters to what the age demographic is. Is it male or female or both? Are they interested by interests or by age, or where they live? You can target the area where you live so that you're not you're dealing with something on a local level. So these are all tools that are now within our reach to be able to increase our exposure and start generating some leads outside of the traditional lead generation system, which is person to person and your contact network. So start digging into that. Start doing a bit of research on Facebook fan pages. It's free advertising. It's literally, well, it's not free, but it's like pennies on the dollar, literally pennies. And I'm bringing you this intel from an experiment that was shared with me in Latin America, where Nikan Corporate ran a couple of fan pages just to promote an event, and they got over 500 leads per event at the cost of about 13 cents a lead, which is nothing. So it's doable. And it's just a question of now figuring out what's attracting people. So I think opportunity is going to attract people more than product is, unless you're dealing with a water situation and you want to, or in California right now, they're dealing with some pretty bad air issues. So that, an air quality thing could have gone out and created some interest that way. So just some ideas for you to think about how you can enhance your business, your exposure, start getting some leads coming at you rather than you going out and generating them all the time on your own. And that way, you'll have more people going through the funnel and more people joining. Anyway, guys, this is the end of our call. We have a busy week this week. Hope to see most of you in San Antonio. Great event schedule there. And regardless of what the schedule is, it's just great to be with our favorite people. So I look forward to seeing you all out there, having a great time and learning and sharing some stuff. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Mike.